welcome to Middle School Math with Meg. I am a third year middle school math teacher, and this vlog is going to be kind of an introduction to my background, what got me into teaching, and then I'll talk about my first year teaching and my second year teaching and some plans that I have for this upcoming school year. So stick around. So I started teaching 3 years ago. I went to school originally to become a special ed teacher, but I decided to go into math instead when a position opened up and I applied for it and I got it. So that's how I came to be a middle school math teacher. I love the school that I work at. It's actually the same school that I graduated from. I have amazing colleagues that I work alongside every day. Um, a lot of my students I have known for a long time because they're either friends with my kids or they're children of my own friends or family members. We really have a great family-like atmosphere at our high school. So my first year teaching math started out the summer before I began teaching. I got hired that summer, so I had about a month to kind of plan and prepare and practice up on the math content that I would be teaching. I hadn't done 7th and 8th grade math probably since I was in high school, because now it seems that in middle school we're teaching students pre-algebra type content, and that was stuff that I learned in high school, so it's a lot different. Um, but I tried to have a good game plan of what I wanted to do with my students, like how my class would be structured. I knew that when kids came in the door, I wanted to have something for them to do right away so that it wasn't chaotic. So that's where I started giving my class warm-ups, and they're just little slips of paper, or it could be something online like a quizzes where they might have 4 questions that they would complete at the very beginning of class. They would do this while I took attendance and greeted them, just kind of got everybody settled. And there were a few issues with this that I'll talk about later, things that I changed for my second year with the warm-up. The classes, they went pretty well. I started out with fairly large classes my first year, and they were inclusive. I had special ed students, which was great because I love working with them, and differentiating and things like that I find fun because I can be creative and just kind of make things really different and interesting for the kids. So my first year flew by. It was, I don't know, I would probably say difficult. It's from the first part of the year until Christmas, it went really fast, and I think I was running on adrenaline and momentum because I was so excited. I was also taking classes because I needed to have a couple more classes in order to become fully certified. So it was just a busy year. After Christmas break, that's when things really got challenging and difficult and hard. It was there was a lot of behaviors in my classes that I had to deal with and trying to manage those. Um, so by the end of the year, I was pretty drained, pretty exhausted. I was ready for a vacation. Um, so that pretty much sums up my first year teaching. I don't want to scare anybody. Your first year might not be as chaotic as mine was, but I always hear from veteran teachers that your first year teaching is probably the toughest and the most challenging, but it's also a good time to learn and grow and reflect over the summer on things you want to change for your second year, which is what I did. Year 2 started out much better than year 1. I went into the year with really a a really good game plan. I had better classroom management strategies. I had behavior expectations that I laid out right from day one, so that kids knew exactly what was acceptable and not acceptable in my classroom. Um, I was told not to be so nice from the start, which I think that helped a lot to be more strict at first and just make sure classroom procedures get really nailed down at the beginning and kids kind of know what to expect. And one thing that I did differently second year was I had daily agenda slides that I would have up on my board. So I only teach the subject of math, but I had 3 different classes, 2 7th grade and 1 8th grade. I also have an advisory class, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. But my agenda slides would be on the board when students would come in the room, and it would let them know first thing what to do. So they would get their warm up, and that would be, I would put on right on the slide, it was either paper or it was online, so they would know where to access it from. And I kind of changed up the warm up second year because the first year, the students were kind of having a hard time completing them. They were too difficult, and some of them would sit there and do nothing, or they would need a lot of help. So this year, I either created my own or I would find some things online, like practice skills, could be integers, fractions, percents. Later in the year, it would be things that I had taught them, like solving equations, different geometry concepts, just things like a spiral review. And I think that helped a lot. And if they happen to struggle with that, I would do maybe the first one on the board so they could see how it's done. And then it would kind of come back to them and they would get it done, and we'd go over it in class. It was also a good way for me to see the things that they really needed to work on. Like if certain students struggled with adding fractions with unlike denominators, that's something that we would continue to work on with our warm-ups for a week or so. And after the warm-ups, we would go over homework. Yes, I give homework because I think it's important. We'd go over their homework and answer questions on that. Then they would pass that in. And then I would teach a lesson. And my number one teaching tool, my favorite thing that I use in my classroom, is my iPad. And I can stream that right to my Promethean board. I'm lucky that my school they give us really great technology. I bought my iPad myself because I wanted one, and it was just a little gift to myself. I use it all the time for teaching. But I do have a Promethean board, and I'm lucky enough to have 2 MacBooks that I can use for teaching. My students all have Chromebooks, and I even have a printer in my classroom and things like that. So that's great. My teaching would be guided notes. So the students would get their guided notes, and I would teach the lesson on my iPad. They would fill in their guided notes, which can be easily scaffolded for special ed students or for students who need higher order thinking questions. Then after the lesson, students would either work on their homework in class or we would do an activity. So some of the activities that I like to do were scavenger hunts, cut and paste things, mazes. There's a whole bunch of them. I'll talk more about those in another video though. So I like to give the kids probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 minutes at the end of class to get started on their homework. And then that way, if they have questions, they can ask me and they don't have to go home and be confused or ask their parents for help. I also post the videos that go along with our lessons on my Google Classrooms, and then students can access those if they need help or if they're absent. So that's kind of how my class is structured, and that went really well. I did that all my second year. I had some really great kids last year. They were just really sweet, and I felt like my classroom management improved a lot too, so that probably helped. But um, yeah, so that's pretty much sums up year 2, and there are some things I'm going to change up for year 3, so stick around and we'll hear about it. So, year 3, what I have planned for my 3rd year as a middle school math teacher, um, I think I'm going to keep my classes fairly structured the same way. I'll probably have some of the students that I had last year that I had in 7th grade as 8th graders this year. So, I plan to do things fairly similar with the structure, and I know that middle school kids appreciate structure and knowing what to expect when they come into class every day. Um, so some things that I probably will change up a little bit. One thing I want to do is I want to record myself teaching this year to post on Google Classroom. Last year, I would find either videos on YouTube or other videos. So I'll probably do that with myself this year. And I want to record some teaching videos for this channel just so people can see kind of how I do it. I also want to incorporate more and more real life math into my classes. Last year I did some really cool projects. One of them I called the $1 Million Project, where kids would learn how to write checks. The project was they inherited $1 million from a family member, so they had to spend it on certain things, and they would calculate the tax and things like that. Learn to budget. They wrote checks and they learned how to balance a checkbook. So they really enjoyed that, and they get to buy some really cool imaginary things that they researched, things like houses and cars, college. One of the requirements was they had to go to college. They had to give money to a charity. So they got online and researched all these different things that they would spend their $1 million on, and wrote checks out for the costs with the tax included. And that kind of went along with our financial literacy unit. Another fun project I did for surface area was creating these little surface area people, where they had to make a person or an animal or something out of specific shapes and then calculate the total surface area for that figure. So they enjoyed that, and some of them did a really amazing job, and they let me keep them so I can kind of use them as models for future classes. 8th grade, I think my favorite project in 8th grade is the buying a car project that I do for the Systems of Equations unit. And students they'll look up 2 different vehicles that they want to buy. It could be cars or trucks, and they find out what the monthly cost would be for that vehicle, for gas, insurance, maintenance costs. They have to calculate their down payment and what their monthly payment would be, and then they graph the monthly cost and see over time which one would be the better deal. So they have 2 different cars, so they'll see on their graph, like, if they ever intersect, like if they ever come together, if one might be better or whatever than the other one. So that's a fun thing. And there's writing included in that too. They write up like a paragraph for an introduction, and then at the end, they decide which car they would buy. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the cheaper one, but they make a decision on based on cost and what they really want, which one they would buy. So it's pretty cool, real life math. I think they appreciate that. Yeah, so. So, one thing that I did my first year teaching that I decided I was not going to do my second year teaching was reward students so much for just average things that they should already be doing. I don't know, I think I felt like going into my first year, I think I felt like if they didn't have some sort of a reward, that maybe they wouldn't do their work. So I would assign IXLs. I don't know if you have heard of that program or use it, but I use it a lot, and I think it's a really good program to help kids really like solidify their math skills. So I would do like this drawing at the end of every week where I would put the students' names into a jar for each IXL that they scored at least an 85 on. And at the end of the week, I would draw out 3 names from each class, and those 3 students would be able to pick a prize out of my prize bag. So middle school students love to eat, so candy was a big prize in there. Little fidgets, those little vinyl stickers that they put on their laptops, things like that were really good. But what I found was that some of the students still weren't doing them. Some of them were writing their name down and putting it in the jar when they didn't really get an 85. They might have got a 70. So it was really hard to kind of manage that and make sure everyone was being honest. And so second, and I was spending a lot of money on it each week too. So it was like $30 a week for all of my classes. So second year, I decided I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just start out with assigning them their assignments, and I'm not going to reward them for doing homework or IXLs anymore. And you know what? This past year, they got them done. The majority of the kids did them, and they had no expectations. Even the 8th graders that I had this past year, that I had in my first year as 7th graders, they didn't even mention the prize bag or earning prizes for their IXLs. So it all worked out. So you don't have to give kids prizes or points or candy to get them to do things. Now that I'm going into year 3, I feel like they should just do them. Like if they get homework, they need to do it, and that's my expectation. And if they don't do it, then I have them come in and they do it in class, and just they need to do it. It's important and sets them up for success when they go into high school. So homework is a good thing. Don't be scared of it. So it is the next day, hence the new location and outfit change. Another thing that I did do differently my second year compared to my first year was I tried not to work so many extra hours outside of my contract time, because I'm sure if you're a teacher, you know that there's just never enough time in the work day to get everything done. But it really made a big difference my second year, having that family time and just having that time in the evenings to not have to worry about school and things like that. I did stick to Friday evenings as my grading time at school, though, just because it was a good time to just do it all and get it done. And then I didn't get behind on grading, and I was always sure where kids were at as far as their grades, and the ones who might need some extra extra help on things to just get them caught up if they needed to be. So, time management, that was the thing I wanted to discuss. Um, so, some ideas I have for upcoming videos in this vlog. I'm looking down a little bit because I have a list here, but I want to talk more about time management as a teacher. Items that I use in my classroom that I cannot live without. I will be talking about those in a later video. I plan to do an unboxing of my supplies that the district bought for me. Each teacher at the end of the school year makes an order for the next year, and so when that comes in, it probably in September or so, I'll film what I ordered for that and also show you what I bought myself for my classroom. And I'm going to talk about in a later video some different types of formal and informal assessments that I use for my students. Some of them they're pretty simple, like you don't really need to prep or plan. You can assess on the fly. And I also want to talk about what our middle schoolers really like. So if you know, you know, and if you don't know, then I'm going to tell you. They are a rare breed, and they're my favorite age group to work with. They're super fun. You never know what they're going to say or do, but they're just the right group for me, I guess, because we just have a lot of fun together. So I'll also be filming a video in the upcoming weeks on my vacation to the coast of Maine. We are going camping in tents, so that will be fun, and we see some really beautiful places. So if you're interested in that, tune in for that one. And another thing that I do is raise chickens. So if you're interested in raising chickens and how I do that, just let me know in the comments and I will film some things with my chickens. Just started raising them this spring and I'm so glad I did because they're super fun and they make me so happy. So thanks for watching this video and I will talk to you soon. Bye bye.